Floodwaters flowing down the Darling River in far western New South Wales will fill the Menindee lakes for the first time in 5 years. The floodgates were opened this morning. While the water is welcomed by the farmers, there's concern it'll be drained by irrigators downstream, which has been a problem in the past. Kate McBride is a fifth-generation grazier from the Menindee area and has been fighting for the health of the Darling River for the past couple of years, and she joins us now from Adelaide. Kate, g'day. So what's it like to hear this morning of this water release?
Oh, it's incredible. I've been speaking to some locals that are there. They've had locals actually opening the gates to the Menindee lakes, and there's a real feel of excitement. But of course, there's concern that this water is going to be drained. The last two times the Menindee lakes have had significant amounts of water in it, it's been drained really quickly. And that's not just for irrigation use. There's actually been no explanation as to why these lakes have been drained in the past. So making sure that we've got sort of 3 to 4 years of drought reserves kept in the lakes is critical for the survival of the towns and downstream towns as well.
So for people unfamiliar with the system, how does it work with the Menindee lakes? It's not just determined on how much water is flowing down the river. There's like this gates system.
Yeah, so there's multiple lakes within the Menindee lake system, and these are a critical lake system within the whole Murray-Darling Basin. So a massive amount of fish breeding occurs. It's an oasis for huge amounts of bird numbers and everything. And it's really sort of like it regulates the river downstream. So my family property, Tulano Station, is downstream of Menindee lakes. And by having that water sort of stored in it and releasing it slow, like sort of more slow than otherwise would, it keeps that river system connected. And when it comes to the Murray-Darling Basin, river connectivity is the #1 thing. So we need to make sure that flows are continuing to come down to the Menindee lake system, because what we've seen is research that's actually showing that those low to medium flows that sort of keep the Menindee lakes topped up and healthy, they're not happening anymore.
So what's the last couple of years been like?
Oh, terrible. We all remember the footage of the mass fish kills, dry riverbeds, dry lake beds. It's just been a horrible few years. And the hard thing is it's not just because of drought. We keep hearing, oh, drought from our politicians, but they know that's not the case. There's a lot of management decisions that have caused these problems that are occurring. And so with Melinda Pavey out there, the New South Wales Water Minister today, I wanted to see a real firm commitment to her for the Menindee region, for the people along the whole Darling Barker River, that water would continue to flow down, because we see time and time again irrigators upstream being put before the environment. We even saw a New South Wales ICAC report showing that the New South Wales government has favoured irrigators for far too long, and that needs to change.
Yeah, as you say, we all remember those terrible pictures of those big fish kills. Did they happen just outside the lakes or inside the lake system?
Just outside the lake system. So part of the issue was that there was no water in the lakes to sort of keep that flowing. So that viral video, I actually took that. That's my old man in it. And yeah, like, it's hard to forget. It was just a horrible time, and we never want to see that again. But unfortunately, we came pretty close. Like, it's really lucky that this water's come down, because it was only about a month ago that the lower Darling River had red alert for blue-green algae, which is what we saw as sort of a catalyst for these fish kills a few years ago. So we need people to keep an eye on the Menindee lake system, but also the whole Murray-Darling Basin. We're not out of the woods. We've actually got a May Day for the Darling Barker occurring in Wentworth on the 1st of May. So get along, show your support, because we need to show politicians that people care about the Menindee lakes and Darling Barker River.
So you believe those fish kills were preventable with better management of the water, or with the drought, was there just not enough water around?
No, without a doubt they were preventable. There was multiple reports that came out that said drought did have an effect, but the main thing was the management of the Menindee lakes, and also over-extraction occurring further up. So we're just seeing mass amounts of irrigation. There's people within the Menindee lakes area that have actually, you know, although we're celebrating this water coming down, it should have come down earlier. There was 2 stolen floods, is what we're calling it. This water should have come down a long time ago. We've had dry lake beds, red alert for blue-green algae. I mean, as soon as the river downstream gets sick, we need embargoes so that irrigators can't take river water. We need to make sure that the environment and downstream communities are put before irrigation.
You mentioned your property, Tulano, is just south of the Menindee lakes. So how much water does your family extract from the river system?
We actually haven't extracted anything for the last few years. So we're really careful with what we do. We've had good rainfall, which means that we've got water in our dams right now, and we don't extract from the river. During some times when we don't have enough water in our dams, we do have a stock and domestic licence, so we can take a 2-inch pipe, and we have done that in the past. But yeah, at the moment we're not extracting anything, and we have had blue-green algae the last few months, so even if we wanted to, we couldn't.
Yeah. There are multiple people, communities, irrigators, graziers, who do rely on taking some water from the river when at different times. What has to happen overall so the management is more effective?
Yeah, and please understand, I'm not anti-irrigation. Irrigation is critically important for Australia, but we need to make sure that the rivers are healthy, because with dead rivers, there's no jobs on a dead river. We need to make sure that the environment and downstream is healthy, so we're ensuring that connectivity, and then we can see mass extraction occur. But what we're seeing at the moment is massive amounts of extraction, and one of the biggest things is floodplain harvesting, and this is just the worst thing to happen to our rivers. It's allowing people to take huge amounts of rainwater, before it even gets into the river. So we're actually stopping that inflow. So when it comes to rivers in the Murray-Darling Basin, the most important thing is connectivity, making sure that those small to medium flows are allowed to flow down the river before we start seeing that extraction for particularly crops like cotton and the like.
Yeah. We've heard so much about the Murray-Darling Basin over the last 10, 15 years. Are you surprised that we're still at this point where you see it is so badly mismanaged?
Yeah. But with the people that are currently in charge of water, it doesn't surprise me at all. But I was thinking about it today. I feel like every time I come on, it's like a good news story. Today, we've got water in Menindee lakes. That's great. But then in 6 months' time, they're going to drain the lakes, and I'll probably be back here crying out that we're on dry lakes again. It's so frustrating how we just seem to be on this continual cycle of doing the same thing and expecting a different result. We need to make sure that we're supporting the Murray-Darling Basin because it's not healthy, and we need to make sure that people are aware of that a bit of water in the Menindee lakes isn't going to solve all our problems. The water isn't expected to fill the whole Menindee lake system, so we need to be managing this really carefully.
And Kate, when will you next get back up to your property, and what is it like being, because you spent a bit of time in Adelaide, a bit of time up on the property, what is it like getting back home up that way and being on the land? Yeah,
so the station's everything to me. I wear a Darling Barker necklace around me.
Sorry, what's on the necklace?
It's actually dirt. It's from the Darling Barker River.
Wow.
I'm actually a water researcher at the Australia Institute, so something a bit different. And then every second week I get to go back home, get back into it, and I'm just so excited to see these inflows into the Menindee lakes. I'm so jealous of all the videos, seeing these gates open. My little brother actually got to open one of them.
Wow. So yeah,
super excited to be back.
You've inspired me. I think I'm going to have to get a necklace with a bit of dirt from Innisfail, a bit of rainforest dirt. Okay, great to talk to you. Thanks for the chat, Kate. Kate McBride there in Adelaide.